welcome to another episode of Randy Steve's Outdoor Adventures. In this episode, we're actually doing our best baits of 2020 and as well as techniques and gear guide. We're kind of an all-around type deal here. We're going to talk about what the lures that we used and what techniques we used them with to win some of our tournaments we've done this year, as well as some of the fishing that you can do right now and catch fish. The gear guide aspect, we're going to talk about some of the rods and reels and stuff that we've been looking at and really your best money to buy right now. And we're also going to talk about a little bit of electronics as well. So stay tuned and let's get to talking about this.
So this year, 2020, our bread and butter bait, the bait that we probably got more bites on this year than every other bait combined, was a swim bait.
Yep.
Caught a lot of fish on a lot of different sizes of swim baits, mainly Kitech brand, but also I caught some on Bass Pro Shops brand. Just mixing some different colors, and there were certain times where they would be out of stock on one particular size of Kitech that I was getting, so that I would substitute in with the Bass Pro Shops brand, and both worked really well for me. We used the little Kitech, the 2.8 inch, or in the Bass Pro Shops brand, the 3 inch. I probably used that one the most, but I also caught pretty many fish on a 3.8 inch swim bait as well.
Same.
Different heads. For me, it was just a typical conical or cone-shaped swim bait head, and also the Mega Bass Okashira head that has the little blade that creates that unique vibration. And Steve had some luck on some underspins as well.
Right, at Oneida, as well as, believe it or not, on Alani, in the very beginning of the year, I was taking the standard 3.8 Kitechs in Tackle Warehouse Pro Blue, which is more of a ghost blue back, which really imitates Owlwise, which is the primary forage for pretty much every lake within 4 hours of here.
Our local lakes, it's pretty much, they're all dominated by aloe.
Yeah, I think Onalani may be the only one, but that's because I don't know if they probably have Owlwise, but I don't think that's what the fish really chase.
Yeah, Onalani does have aloe-wives, but there is something else mixed in there. I'm not sure what it is, and I know up towards Hamburg, Kersher Creek, that lake has golden shiners in it.
Right. So, but Onalani, it worked well. Were those the
Cash Crow?
No, it was the underspin. The cool down baits underspin was
underspin.
was the real underspin I used a lot. I used it in the 3/8 to ½ ounce on the bigger ones, and I used the 1/4 to 1/8 on the smaller ones. But if I was using the 1/8, I generally used the Okashira head because that was that was something completely new and different. It gives it more of a spy bait aspect with a different thump, and it's something that fish just go wild for, and it's something they don't see a lot.
It's subtle.
It's very subtle, and it's very slow, but you got that moving aspect to it. It's just a great it's a great setup to it.
What gear are you throwing that on?
Well, the underspins and stuff I was using on like a 7-foot medium bait caster rod. That was generally pretty standard. I mean, you can use medium heavies or spinner bait rods on it. With the Okashiras, I was using a 6.6 medium light with a braid to fluorocarbon leader. I just did a straight Alberto knot, and I got really good with that. And that's how I was using it. I didn't like putting on the swivel because the swivel impacts the action of the Okashira head. The Okashira tends to spin a lot, so you got to watch with the line twist, and that's what the swivel helps with. But the swivel, it messes with the angle of the bait and just doesn't have the right flutter that it does when it's just straight line to it. But that's what I was using. I felt like that 6.6 medium light was great for me. It had a stiff enough tip where I could set the hook and it would get a good hook set in, but light enough rod that if I have a big smallie on it pulsed, it didn't throw the hook.
Yeah, when I was throwing the smaller swim bait, like the little 2.8 or the 3 inch, I was throwing that on a 6.6 medium light as well. 15-pound braid down to a real low barrel swivel, down to 8-pound or 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. There were some days where when the swim bait was just the thing for me and I couldn't get them to bite everything else, if I threw that Okashira head all day, I would just get line twist like crazy. So I went with the swivel in between the braid and the fluorocarbon leader just to eliminate that line twist. But if you're mixing it up and, you're not throwing that all day and you're only you're throwing some other things too, I do believe that going to the knot is better overall for the presentation.
Right, and you just gotta make sure that knot's solid before you even throw it out. Test it
Practice it.
practice it a lot.
You can use uni knots,
Right.
blood knots. You were using the Alberto knots. Just work better for you.
Yeah, it works better for me. It's simpler because I'm used to working with a cinch knot, which is Alberto knot, similar to a cinch knot. And also, too, it's very small, so it goes through your guides.
I was gonna say you didn't have any issues with casting.
No.
You went through your guides, went through the level wind on your reel.
Right, I had no problem with that. One rod has a problem, but those are really tiny guides on that.
Micro guides.
Yeah, super tiny. So I just gotta watch with that one, but that one's fine. The other thing you can do with the swim baits too, and this is the other spell state, the flashy swimmer, the owner flashy swimmer.
That owner flashy swimmer is a legit head. That is a heavy wire hook.
Yep.
You can catch big fish on that. I have a lot of the 5/0 ones in 1/4 ounce, and I usually throw like a 4.5 or a 5-inch swim bait on that. When those fish bite and you hit them with that stiff rod, whether you're using braid or straight fluoro, that hook will not bend down.
And the one thing I will say, the underspins and the Oka Shearhead are great for open water or like water where you have a good couple feet before it hits the weeds, so you're
Right.
buzzing across the top of them.
Of grass.
The owner flashy swimmer, in my opinion, is the best thing to rip through the grass as an underspin with swim baits. It doesn't hang up. It comes up. It's got a nice. It just is a great presentation all around.
It's text posed on
Yes.
that rig, so the hook point, if you rig it correctly, it just lays right along the top of that bait, or you can even tuck the point in, and like you said, you can work it through some cover.
Yeah, and you can do the same thing with a chatterbait or a spinner bait, but a lot more guys tend to use those, so the fish are more conditioned for them. And swim baits tend to get big fish. I've caught plenty of 3s and 4s this year.
Caught some giant smallies on it this year.
that flashy swimmer on Ohlone in the early season, and then obviously smallmouth up at Oneida, and also at Chameau Bay where you were fishing up there.
Yeah, for Blue Marsh, the swim bait was the deal for us this year. Up at Oneida, it really helped me win our club tournament up there in June, and up at Lake Ontario, I caught a lot of fish on it as well in July and August. But prior to that, when we were wading over at Ohlone, you were whacking them on that craw.
Yeah, the razor baits cash crawl.
Razor bait.
Yeah, razor baits, and you can order them. Unfortunately, right now there's some sort of military thing he's going out, so he's not taking orders.
Okay.
But it is a website. It's called Razor Baits, spelled like a shaving razor, RAZOR. He has some really good stick baits that we use out of our Ohlone, and we also have these cash craws. Now these cash craws, they're basically the same shape as a chigger craw. If you look at the chigger craw, you look at the cash craw, you're like, okay, there's really no difference to them. And then you put them next to it. The cash craw's claws are huge compared to a chigger craw's.
Yeah, when I first looked at them, they remind me of the Berkeley Chigger Craw, or they remind me of the Strike King Rage Craw. But like you said, the claws are just huge, and they create a lot more thump.
Yeah, but it's a subtle thump too. It's actually more of a natural, looking at a fin of a fish movement, undulation, more so than like a really aggressive thump like a Strike King Rage Craw. And this year, with the low water and the low dissolved oxygen, the fish didn't want to chase stuff once it came past June. They didn't want to come up and hit frogs or anything in the muck at Ohlone or anything like that.
We didn't do much on topwater this year.
But you throw that cash crawl out there, and you just let it sit. Just find a hole, throw it out there, let it sit, and next thing you know, your line just starts going. I caught 2 5-pounders doing that, which, for my year-old Ohlone, I caught 2 5-pounders and a 6.
I didn't catch no 5-pounders this year. So, no, this is the first year I can remember. I didn't have any fish over 5.
Yeah, and it's like, it was so stupid. You just threw it out and let it sit. And that pattern stayed throughout the entire summer. Now, there was a point where they were hitting nothing. I think what happened there was they were hitting at night and they weren't touching anything during the day. They just shut down during the day because of the increased temperature and heat. And then once it came back in this fall again, they started hitting that cash crawl again. But that's been a strong pattern all year for me. And like another thing that like you had a lot of success on. I mean, this is something that I don't typically, but crankbaits.
Yeah, I never cranking was always one of the weak spots in my game, but I really the last 2-3 years I've been really going at it hard and throwing it a lot, and I've been learning a few things, and I got the right setup too, which helps. And I caught a lot of fish cranking this year. In the fall when they draw Blue Marsh down, I actually won our Schuylkill County Bass Anglers Club tournament. I won that little club tournament cranking using a Rapala DT6, DT10 Bomber 6A crankbait. I was also using the what's the name of that other bait? I can't think of it. It'll come to me. But anyway, using mainly fishing like the 6 to 10 foot depth range, shallow for the most part. I throw when I'm shallow cranking, I throw that on a St. Croix 7'2" medium moderate legend tournament. It's rated for 8 to 14 pound line. If I'm shallow cranking, I use 12-pound mono. It's a slower, moderate action rod. It gives the fish time to eat the bait before the rod will start to bow up, and then when they do get it, and you get them hooked and they come up jumping, that rod it never totally unloads. It always keeps a bend, and you always lose fish cranking, but man, ever since I went to that moderate action rod, I don't lose hardly nearly as many fish as most people when I'm cranking.
And when you pick the rod up, you're like, well, this thing ain't gonna keep a fish on. How you can get this hook set on it? But
at first I thought it was too light.
It's too light. Feels too light. But then when you actually hook something big on it, and you realize, well, the kind of fish can hook themselves with treble hooks.
I've caught 4 and 5 pounders on that rod. Haven't had an issue. I've caught some big catfish on it as well. Haven't had an issue. Now, the only thing you can't do with it is I personally would not throw a crankbait that dives more than 10 feet on it, because then it starts to pull too hard and it bows that rod up a little bit too much during the retrieve. But if you're cranking shallow, or you're square billing, or you're only fishing that 4 to 6, maybe 8 foot depth range, it's perfect for those smaller, shallower cranks.
Something else like that, we don't have a lot of fish that will hit jigs. Like, we don't have very, very good jig lakes. That's another thing that I've been experimenting on this year, and I actually caught my 6-pounder on it, doing something similar to what I was doing with the cash crawl, but just different look. The Dirty Jigs Finesse jig. I really think that's the best finesse jig out there. It's got the right size for a small bluegill. The skirts on Dirty Jigs are real thin. Like, I wouldn't say like thin. Like, the strands are real thin. Not necessarily. The skirt is actually pretty thick, but it has a lot of thin strands to it, so it really puffs out and gives you a wider profile.
The lighter strands will flare more when that jig's just sitting on the bottom.
Right, and it really makes it look like a bluegill, and that's what big largemouth around here really focus on, is those little bluegills. And if you go out and throw a jig, you're not going to go out and get a ton of bites, but if you are going to get a bite, it's going to be a big bite. And that's why I did the Dirty Jigs. I was, again, over on Lonnie in pre-spawn, and I was throwing it out, doing the same thing with the cash crawl, hitting a hole and just letting it sit and then popping it out like a bluegill. And one time I threw it out there, and it just got heavy. And I set the hook, and it was probably a personal best for me on a Lonnie. It was a 6-pounder. It was just massive.
There is something about a jig that just gets you a bigger bite.
Yep.
I don't know what it is. I was just out last Sunday on our local lake. I was on Blue Marsh, just scanning around. I did find a school, and I went to work on them. Believe it or not, I was experimenting with a blade bait, and I had caught 4 or 5 shorts in pretty short order on the blade bait out of the school. And then I went to the jig and just started, basically just dead sticking it. I mean, I knew where the fish were, but the water temp was only 41 degrees on Sunday. So it's like, you're not really hopping that jig, you're just kind of dragging it and letting it sit. And dragging it and let it sit. Long story short, I go and catch a keeper, 16-incher on the jig.
Yeah.
It's
and it was a healthy fish, too.
It's the same thing there, though. I caught a bunch of more bites faster on the blade bait, but got the better bite on the jig, and that happens a lot.
Yeah, and the blade bait, that's what's really working right now, I would say, because especially with this water cooling down. Some blade baits you can look at is a silver buddy. steel shad, the mega bass. There's a mega bass one. I forget what it's actually called.
Dyna Response.
Dyna Response, I think. You also got the.
That might be the Demiki.
That might
be
the
Demiki Vault.
Demiki Vault. Yeah, those are
Mega
all.
Bass Dyna Response.
Yeah, those are all really good blade baits for you to check out. Stick with more the silver and blues. Those are the consistent ones. I mean, you can go and do other colors, and they will work at times in different lakes. But the silver and blue tends to be the standard go-to when it comes to.
Yeah, I think I had 3 fish on this. I was using a silver buddy. I had 3 fish on the silver one, and I had 1 on the gold. But that particular day, they seemed to go after the silver one.
Yep.
The cool thing about the blade bait is it's a little tricky to get the cadence right, but once you get that figured out, and obviously you got to know you're on fish, you can't really cover water with it, in my opinion, is you can get a reaction bite out of those fish. When you're just lifting that thing up off the bottom and letting it fall, when you get it near them, they see that flash, and sometimes they'll just lash out and bite it out of aggression.
So, along with that, we kind of talked about, we didn't get to talk about the gear we use with that. We did talk a little bit about what you personally use St. Croix rods. Since we've worked at Dick's Sporting Goods and sold the stuff, we had it on pro form and stuff, so like we got a little bit cheaper deals and pricing that stuff like that, but we stocked up knowing we were going to get the tournament fishing. But with St. Croix rods, we have had nothing but good things about St. Croix rods. When they have a great warranty for their price. They stand behind their product, and that's what you really want to look at. You can go and buy a $100 rod, but if it doesn't have really a warranty, what's the good? And they don't not stand by their product.
It's one of the reasons why I stick with them. There's not a lot of companies that make a $100 rod that has a 5-year warranty. A lot of companies have, and most companies, whether you go with Loomis or St. Croix or Duckett or any of the big names, typically as you go up in price, you get better warranties. But nobody that I know, other than St. Croix, offers a 5-year warranty on a $100 rod. Most $100 rods you see on the shelf in stores, they give a 1-year warranty, maybe 2, but 5 years is unheard of. And then if you get up into the upper reaches of their product line, like in the $200 range on up, then you start getting into lifetime warranties.
Yep. And the one thing I like about the St. Croix rods that we use, and we have the Mojos, we have the Premiers, we have Triumphs, we have Triumph X's, we have Legend Tournaments. We have probably almost all the brands. I even have an Icon.
Yeah, all the models that they make.
They, for a very sensitive rod that they have, they make a tough rod too. Like, problem with a lot of what's that? It's graphite. Yeah, with graphite rods is they get, as they get more sensitive, they get a lot more weak.
They get brittle,
especially the cheaper ones. You might have a sensitive rod, but they get brittle and break. St. Croix, for some reason, I'm not sure why, but their rods are very sensitive, and they're graphite rods, but they're built to last. They don't break very easily unless you do something that you probably shouldn't have done.
Yep. We break them, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, I've broken rods before, all different brands. Some of it was my fault. Some of it I don't believe was my fault. But it seems to happen just less with the St. Croix, at least in my experience. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting more careful. But when I do break it, they stand behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I popped out insert.
The guide, yeah.
I got one stuck in a tree when I was a kayak, and it broke that way. Again, my fault. I think Keith broke his Triumph, the first steelhead rod he had, but the weight came back and sawed it off. Like,
yep.
It was
I
all
broke one off like that too.
Yeah, it was all like stuff that, like, well, yeah, that any rod will break that way.
Oh yeah.
Maybe except an ugly stick, but you're not going to get the sensitivity in an ugly stick.
Right.
So I mean, that's why we stick with the St. Croix rods, and just the quality of the product that we stand by that.
And then when we're steelhead fishing or ice fishing or early season, late season, when you're fishing in the cold weather in general, graphite gets more brittle in the cold. They break easier when it's cold than when it's warm.
So, and then the reels we talk about. I mean, we have a cavalcade of reels.
Full gamut.
It feels like Randy has a favorite reel every other year.
I do. So it depends whichever one catches fish, right?
Yeah, exactly. You gone from Lew's, Then you got on the Abu train for a while.
I was always, as far as bait casters, I've always been a lose guy. They, again, just for that $100 price point, it's really hard to beat a lose LFS. Now, there are some good sales going on right now, being at the end of the season. We're not far before Christmas here. I did just pick up an Abu Garcia Premier from Cabela's that they had on sale. I just ordered 2 Daiwa Tatula CTs from Tackle Warehouse. They started on sale Friday. The reels normally, matter of fact, you told me about them. You said they're a good reel for the money. They're normally $130. I just got 2 of them for $90 a piece on sale on Tackle Warehouse.
And those Daiwa Tatulas, like my sweet spot for casting reels, whatever, and people may call me a snob, is about like 150. I think over 150 is too much. I think if you spend under 100 on a casting reel, you're buying what you're paying for. I tend to be a little bit more towards the 150, but I really do feel those Daiwa Tatulas, the CT or the standard Tatula, is the best reel you can get at that 130 to 150 price range. The distance you get on them, that T wing they got, like that thing, it goes and it just keeps going. You're surprised how far it goes, and the nice part is it doesn't backlash when like I have some Abus and some other reels, Quantums, that like you try and cast them, you wind up and you gun it
if you throw it too hard.
Right, it's going to backlash almost every single time, no matter how you have it adjusted, especially with light braid. But that Daiwa Tatula, it gives you a lot of play with that. With what you're trying to do in the settings and stuff. I really like it, and it's something that I'm really leaning towards. And I don't know why. It's just something you pick it up and it's made of metal. And when you pick up a metal reel versus a plastic reel, that's my issue. I have Abus, but I'm not a fan of them because when you pick them up, it's a lot of plastic. Those Daiwas are made out of metal. I don't know what kind of aluminum alloy or something, but they're when you pick that up, you can feel the quality just in the weight.
Yeah, and I have had the one Abu Garcia, the winch that I have, it's a 5.4. I use it for deep cranking and for the A-rig. That's not even the Revo. That was like the next one down that Dick sold years ago. It was called the Aura. I bought that thing. That thing, I gotta say, that thing's bulletproof. So far, so good. It casts a mile. It's got a good drag in it. It's nice and smooth. I'm just happy with it. So when Cabela's ran the Abu Revo Premier, normally a $250 reel, they ran it for $150. I bought one to try it, and then I was going to try one of the X's, one of the Abu Garcia X's that was $100, just to see how it compared directly to the Luz LFS at that same price point of $99.99. I think I have at least 6 of the Luz LFSs, so I was going to try the Abu just to see the difference. And when they ran the really good one on sale for $50 less, I couldn't resist. And then he talked me into trying the Tatulas, and same thing there. Normally a $130 reel, on sale for $40 off at $90 a piece, $10 cheaper than the one I was originally going to try. So I bought 2 of them just to try them. I bought one in a 6.3 gear ratio and one in a 7.3.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are kind of the reels that we use, and the ones that we feel for the money are the best. If you're looking for something under 100, I would definitely stick with the Luz. They seem to be pretty good.
Luz Speed Spool LFS for $99.99 and Abu Garcia Revo X.
As long as they take care of them, they last. They should last you. Make sure you grease them up. If you're looking for that 130 to 150, I definitely suggest the Daiwa Tatulas. I think they're really good price for that. Something now is electronics. We're getting into, obviously we have the bass boats and we're getting into stuff, and we're adding more and more electronics. Right now, and this is my personal opinion, the best buy for your buck, even though it's last generations, is the Elite TI2s that Cabela's have put out.
Right now on Cabela's website, you can buy the Lowrance Elite TI and the Elite TI2 in a 9-inch screen, and that transducer does chirp sonar, so you have your sonar at high speed. Like in my Ranger, I can be running 40, 45 miles an hour, and I can still read the bottom with that chirp sonar. Down scan and side scan, and you can get the whole unit with transducer, all the wiring you need, whole 9 yards on clearance, $600.
And
$599.97.
You can't beat that. Yeah, like you could get a hook for probably around the same price with side scan, but you're not going to get the quality. And
TI is the better.
The TI is a much better unit. And if you're not using, if you're not somebody who's going out there and needs the top of the line stuff or competing in the big time tournaments, you don't need to go out and spend $3,000 in electronics. Go get yourself a TI2. It's $600. You won't regret it.
Nope.
It'll be the best unit you'll ever have because because the side scan on that, and Randy has one, is great. I think they're a really good unit for that price.
I bought that unit last winter in the beginning of the Black Friday sale, and then we got it installed over the wintertime. I started using it in the spring, so I have a year under my belt with it. And let me tell you something, I never had side scan before, and I know there's better technology out there now. They got live target and live sight and all that stuff they have now. But man, when you're used to just sonar and then you go to side scan, it's definitely helped my fishing and changed the way that I fish for the better.
Now, with me, I'm in a little bit different scenario. Like Randy's looking to possibly upgrade in the near future in his boat, so he doesn't want to invest a ton of new electronics into it. With my boat, I'm in a sport where I'm almost kind of redoing the boat in this aspect because it's a 2006 champion, and champions guys hold on to them because they are the best riding rough water boat.
Great hull.
Yeah, and I want to keep it. I want to keep it for a while, so I'm investing my money into new electronics. I personally went with the Helix 9 Gen 4s that just came out.
The
Humminbirds, yeah, and for the they are expensive at $1,500. There's no sale on them, but for that price range at that style unit, that's the best one in that.
And that's the Helix.
It's the Helix
9-inch that has mega side
imaging and mega down.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm very interested to see what that looks like.
Yeah, and they did do something with their 2D. So that's one of the issues with Humminbirds is their 2D down scan isn't quite as good or as sensitive as a Lowrance or even a Garmin, but they got it hands down the side scan. And what I really eventually want is obviously the 360 at the front. I want units that connect and link to up front. So if I'm at the console, hit this spot here, or if I'm at the front, I want this spot saved, then I have it on both spots on both maps. So that's why I don't want to have a lot of competing electronics there. But the 360 they're coming out with this Gen 4 does have the live scope where you can change it multiple different directions. You can do it in front of you. You can do it in like a half circle. You can do it straight down. There's like 3 or 4 different directions within one transducer you can do, and you don't have to move it around like the new Lowrance that they have coming out.
Yeah, you don't have to panic around.
You don't have to mess around with your trolling motor and try different mounts. No, it's the same thing, and you just change it with a push of a button, which is, to me, I think that's going to be, great. And now with all these electronics having that live target stuff, it's going to be learning a new game, but
looking forward to it.
Yeah, so
bigger, faster, stronger every day.
Yeah, and it's going to cost me some money, but again, I'm looking for the long term. I'm not looking for short term. So spending a little extra money doesn't bother me in that.
Plus, luckily for me, I'm kind of holding off. I do want to get another unit for up front. Like I have the Lowrance 9-inch side scan unit at my console. I'm happy with it, but I'd like to get something for up front. And eventually, I definitely need to get another trolling motor too. But luckily for me, getting 4th place in the 2020 PA Bass State Championship, I get some discounts with their partners and sponsorships. So we have to wait and see who they partner with and re-sign with for 2021. But I'm hoping that I can get either a trolling motor or another fish finder electronics unit at a pretty steep discount, hopefully. So we'll see what happens there.
All right, so as a whole, that's our best baits and techniques that we've found for this year, and kind of a gear guide that we have used for our fishing aspects. So if you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to hit that button to get updates when we upload stuff, and keep on fishing.